Today we have Total Life Fitness coach Kat Pryor on the podcast. So Kat has been a certified personal trainer for over 15 years and is a pre and postnatal trainer, a Mac Nutrition University nutritionist, and Girls Gone Strong Level 1 women's coach, among other certifications as well. So Kat takes an evidence-based approach, and her goal is to help you fall in love with your body again. Kat actually has an incredible story, if you haven't heard it, of overcoming massive obstacles in her life these past several years. In August of 2019, she survived a serious car accident that has given her a completely new outlook on life. And I don't want to share the rest of the details, as it'll be better to hear it from Kat directly. And today she's going to share her journey of healing and how it's empowered her to become an even more amazing coach. So Kat has been a valuable asset in our Total Life Fitness Academy program, and I'm excited to formally introduce her to our audience. Coach Kat, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So everyone looks at you today and you're this fitness coach who's done photo shoots, is in really good shape. However, I know it hasn't always been that way, and there's always a backstory. So let's start with, tell us your background. What were things like for you growing up as a child, and how did you get into fitness?
So growing up, I grew up on a farm in England, just an arable farm, not an animal farm. So I was outside a lot. I've got two older sisters, and yeah, we just spent a lot of time outside, running around, climbing trees. I was a bit of a tomboy. And I had a little pony, so I'd go riding quite a lot. I was just quite active, outdoorsy person, basically. And then fitness wise, I just loved sport. So I played on the netball team at county level. I played on the hockey team. I went to quite a sporty school from age 14. They very much specialized in sports. They had incredible sports facilities. So our hockey team did really well there as well, field hockey. And then athletics, cross country, just all the sports I just really, really enjoyed. And then I left school at 18, just got a job in an office, kind of working in textiles and fashion, completely unrelated. And then I went away traveling for a little bit, and I was like, what do I really want to do? And I just thought, I just love sport, and I really missed doing it so often, because I think as you get older, obviously you're not doing as much sport, right? So I gave it some thought, and then I thought, oh, why not become a personal trainer? And then I just get to do it all the time. So when I got back home, I did my personal training course, graduated from that. Then not long after, the following year, I had my daughter. So then that sort of put it all on hold again. And then when she was about 2 years old, I decided, okay, I really want to get back into this personal training. So I re-qualified. And then from there, I set up my own business, working as a women's only personal trainer, but I was a mobile trainer. So I had all the equipment, I put it in my car, and I'd drive around to people's houses and train them there. And then I had a boot camp that I ran. And then it's a long story, isn't it? Then I went from England, I moved to France, and it was quite hard to work as a personal trainer in France when my French wasn't good enough at that point. So then I went back into working in an office job. And then whilst I was doing that, after several years, I kind of, again was like, oh, I really miss the personal training side of things, and, the health aspect. So I decided to study nutrition, and then graduated. That was the June of 2019, with the thought of doing sort of maybe just like a little sideline business, with online coaching.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, quite the trajectory there of the different types of training and different jobs. And so I guess for you, you've had all sorts of different types of jobs in personal training. So what were kind of your biggest lessons or takeaways from kind of the different stages of your career? Because obviously you started as a mobile personal trainer where you went over to people's houses. What were some of your biggest lessons or takeaways that have helped develop you as a coach from that experience?
I felt because I've never actually worked in a gym. It's always been mobile. And I guess one of the main takeaways was that, you can get results at home. You don't have to be in a gym. But my personal belief is that you can get better results in the gym. You know, there's only, I believe there's only sort of so far you can go at home. So that would be one of the main lessons. And then I think as well, with the boot camp, just the importance of community and getting people together is really, really important with fitness, because, you know, I definitely saw women feeling really motivated and empowered by what the other women were doing, and, you know, that sense of like camaraderie and being part of a team, and, you know, because we'd put people into like smaller groups and things like that, and yeah, it just yeah, the sense of community I think is really, really important when it comes to fitness, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And you're someone who, as we mentioned, you know, have lived in England and France, and a lot of our listeners are from the United States. So how is, you know, obviously I know you haven't lived in the US, but I'm sure you've obviously, you know, coach a lot of people in the US and have connected with a lot of people in fitness in the US. How is fitness or nutrition different in Europe, maybe in France or England, versus in the United States?
Ooh. I personally don't feel like it's that different, actually. I would say, if anything, you know, from my side, perhaps not a struggle as such, but where the learning curve has been in, and actually what the eye opener was when I came to the US, and like the portion sizes are just so drastically different.
Yes.
So that's definitely, you know, a bigger issue to tackle for clients in the US compared to in Europe. But in terms of fitness, in my experience, I haven't noticed any like really drastic differences.
Yeah, for sure. Portion sizes here in the US are definitely on another level. So that's definitely not a surprise. So let's get back into your journey. So you mentioned that you had been certified in nutrition in June of 2019, or that was when you had finished it. And then, well, I guess let's just get into the story. So in August 2019, what happened?
So I think as well, actually, what might be worth mentioning was in the lead up to the nutrition, when I was sitting my exams and everything, it was a really, really stressful time for me at work. So my manager had just kind of quit, like just out of the blue like that. So then I was kind of taking on her role, but without the assistant, because I was the assistant. So work was really full on. Everything was very, very stressful. I kind of studied my nutrition. And then that summer was just a bit of a blur, in all honesty. And sometimes I speak to my mum and she says to me, you know, she'll talk about that time and she's like, you know, I used to hang up the phone thinking she's going to burn out. She's going to have a breakdown. Like it was a really, really stressful time. And it was almost, I don't know why, but it just almost feels like that's kind of significant, because then, you know, when you think like, you know, it's like, bam, like something happens and it just literally hits you. And in my case, it was a van. So that was the 27th of August, 2019. And I was walking to an exercise class. It was about 7:30 in the morning. And I was with my best friend. And it was on the same road that I lived on. So it wasn't a very, very long walk. And I guess we were about, I don't know, like 20 meters, if that, from the gate. We were very close to where we were going. And a car was coming along the road. We were on the verge, on the side, you know, it's not really a sidewalk, but it was like grass and sand because we're near the beach. And a car was coming towards us, and the driver fell asleep at the wheel, came off the road and ran us down. I've got no recollection of this. My last memory is being at the house with Mimi just before we left. So this is obviously just what I've been told and what I've learned. So my next memory from after being at home is being in the hospital, waking up, or just being there and being told that I'd been in an accident. And then I was sort of like, well, who with? And they said Mimi, and I said, what happened? And they said, you got hit by a car. And my biggest worry at that point was about the driver. For some reason, because I just assumed that, you know, Mimi would be all right. You know, we're going to be okay. And I was going, oh my gosh, the poor driver, he must feel awful. Is he okay? And they were saying, yeah, but, you know, it was all there wasn't much being said. And then eventually, I think it was later on that day, they just said to me, you know, Mimi's not very good. And I was saying, oh, the poor thing. And I learned that she was in a different hospital to me. But in my head, I just couldn't comprehend that she wouldn't be okay, because I was like, it's Mimi, like she's going to be fine. And then I spoke to another friend of ours that they passed. One of my friends passed me the phone to speak to a friend of ours who was at the other hospital that Mimi was at, and she just said to me, she's like, "Kat, it's not good. It's critical." And that's when it hit me, like that critical word. I was like, ah, and just the tone of her voice. I thought, okay. And then the following day, when I was going to have the surgery, or the first surgery on my leg, a nurse came in and just said, basically, you know, you were with someone, weren't you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I'm really sorry, but she's not made it. So yeah, we lost Mimi.
Yeah.
But you know, it's, I don't know, for me now, my purpose is like living life for two people.
Yeah. Obviously, very traumatic and tough experience for you, obviously, with what happened during that accident. Um, so, I know the loss of Mimi and one of your best friends really impacted you at that time. So what, obviously you personally suffered a pretty big um injury yourself. So what happened to you personally during the accident?
So I broke the top of my tibia and ruptured my ACL and my LCL and my meniscus and tore the biceps femoris, which is like basically like the bottom of the hamstring behind my knee. For obviously, I know you knew that. I'm saying that for listeners. And then my jaw got broken just under my eye socket as well. And then I lost, I think it was 5 teeth. I should know that by now, but I
Sure.
think it's 5 teeth. Yeah, and then like just a part here of my face as well, just like between the nose and lip, just got broken too. So I had, yeah, the day after the accident, I had the LCL surgery and the tibia surgery. And then I had a full leg cast for, I think it was 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And then the day after that surgery, I had the jaw surgery. And then, yeah, and then eventually about a year later, I had the ACL done.
So obviously tremendous amount of injuries to you personally. Like what was going through your head? I mean, obviously I could tell you were thinking about other people at that point. Like what was going through your head with you personally when you had just learned that you had sustained all these injuries?
Um, it's weird. The weird thing is, so my leg never really hurt. I never had much pain in my leg. So even though I was laying there with this long cast, I was in hospital for I think 10 days. But I think as well, I've blocked, I know definitely my leg, because I've spoken to my parents about it and they were like, yeah, you never really complained about your leg. But my jaw, I can remember having a bit of pain, but I don't remember much. I think I've blocked quite a lot of it out. Because mum said when they took me down for the jaw surgery, when they wheeled me back up and they were putting me back in my room, I was like screaming out and yelling and all this, but I have no recollection of that whatsoever. So kind of disappointed because I thought I'd dealt with it really well.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So obviously a lot kind of lost in the memory of some of the stuff. But I mean, obviously you went from like this really fit person, like the identity as someone who, is very fit, like healthy and in shape. And now all of a sudden your body is just like completely hurting. You have so many injuries. Like, what are you even capable of doing at this point? Like, and what's going through your mind? Are you just like, I'm never going to be able to work out again? Like, how are, like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think I mean I couldn't really do anything for a while. And then I was taught, like the physio came around to help me learn to physical therapist came to help me like walk on the crutches and things, but I'd get head rush really quickly when I was standing up. So I mean that was a bit of an ordeal. I was in a wheelchair for a lot of the time instead. But I just remember when I came home, all I wanted to do was walk to the beach and just clear my head and think and process what had happened. And I couldn't, because obviously I couldn't walk. It was too far for me to go on my crutches. And if I was in the wheelchair, then someone had to come with me. So I felt really trapped because I just couldn't, like, I just remember I just wanted to scream. I just wanted to, like, just want to push everything away. It was so much. I just wanted to move my body, and I knew that would help me feel better, and I couldn't. And it was just the most frustrating thing.
Yeah. I can't even imagine how you felt at that point. So when you were at that point where it was just like you're in a completely different spot. Obviously, you had experienced a tragedy with a close friend of yours. You had also yourself experienced a very serious accident where you weren't able to do pretty much anything that you wanted to do. Like, how did you even like move forward from this? Like, what were the next steps for you?
Um, I had to be very patient. I spent a lot of time, it was a lot of time just kind of just laying on my bed, not really being able to do much. I'd go from the bed to the sofa, to the bed to the sofa, just waiting, just like literally just waiting and waiting to have the cast off. And actually, I remember thinking, like, once the cast comes off, I'll just be able to walk normally. I didn't realize that it was not quite that simple. But I was really lucky. We've got an amazing sports rehabilitation centre here, injury rehabilitation, and I went there for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks after the cast came off, and so that was just like 5 days a week, morning till evening, physiotherapy, just the whole time. So I was very lucky to be able to go there.
And how long did you go there for?
I think it was 4 weeks.
And how long after the accident did you start going there?
That would have been November. So I think I went from beginning of November until sort of early to mid-December. So maybe a bit more than 4 weeks.
Okay. And what did they do with you while you were there to help you rehab?
So loads of cryotherapy, which was amazing with the game ready. That
And for
was
those, and really quickly to pause you, for those who don't know, what is cryotherapy?
so it's like a way, well, the science behind it, I have to say, I don't, you might know this better than me, but it's a way of reducing inflammation basically through cold therapy. Like
And how was that?
it was good. So I mean, so the game ready is like this long kind of sleeve that you put your leg in, and then you turn the machine on and it tightens up, and it's basically filled with ice and water, the sleeve. And so it's like, cold and pressure. So there was a lot of that. Then there was like electrostimulation, and then just lots of exercises. I mean, at that point, there wasn't much exercise I could do. So it was like, laying on a bed and just trying to push like if my leg was out flat in front of me, to try and like tense my knee to push a little cushion down underneath it to try and strengthen, it's just basically trying to strengthen that. Some time in the pool, and then just basically relearning how to walk, the pattern of the foot and how it should be. I mean, I still think I walk a little bit not quite right, but I do my best.
Absolutely. So how long after the accident did it take for you to be able to get back to like walking unassisted, like you didn't need anyone, like you felt comfortable with your movement pattern?
I would say, so after that, I went home and I was walking unassisted sort of by Christmas. But like going downstairs and things was very difficult. Not very difficult, but scary as well. It just, and I couldn't quite bend my leg enough. And yeah, I'm even still now, I get a little bit nervous at certain things. But yeah, and then after that, I went just to I saw a regular physical therapist 3 or 4 times a week. And it just felt like a drag, to be honest. It was just like, oh, here I am again, doing the same exercise again. And watching my little, we always refer to it as my little leg now, because it was just like spaghetti leg, my friends called me when the cast came off, because it was so little. But yeah, just keeping on, and just every time I thought, this is just, I don't want to be here, this is really hard, I just straight away would be like, no, like, you're really lucky to be here. And I would just, it's like I could always just feel Mimi being like, come on, you've got to do this,
Yeah. So why don't you talk about that? Like, obviously you experienced a very traumatic loss of a friend. Like, how did you deal with that?
I was adamant that I didn't want to take any medication, and that I wanted to just process it on my own. I started seeing a psychologist in the October, so about 2 months after. And she, I think, when I look back, it's classic me as well, but she was like, my first appointment, I was so worried. She basically said to me towards the end, you're not talking about you, you're talking about, you're so worried about your friends because they've lost Mimi as well. And I think basically I hadn't really realized the gravity of what had happened to me. It was more like, we've all lost Mimi, oh my God. And I didn't want anyone fussing around me, because I was just like, I'm fine, like, doesn't matter, I'm here, and it actually wasn't until a little while later that a family friend of ours was in an accident as well. And, you know, she could have died, which I have to accept that, you know, I could have died. That could have been me. I could have died as well. And when it happened to my friend, it was that feeling I had of like, oh my God, like just panic and relief that she was still here. I then understood why all my friends were being how they were towards me, because I thought, to be honest, I thought they were just being a bit dramatic and over the top, possibly. That was kind of how I felt about it. But yeah, so it took me a while to even realize it happened, and then slowly, you know, I'd start to kind of get to grips with it. But I was just, I would have a couple of weeks where I was okay, and then I'd have a really bad week where I was just not good at all. And as time went on, the bad week was just getting worse and worse and worse. And, you know, I just remember thinking it wasn't that I want to end my life or anything like that, because I've got a beautiful, amazing daughter who I love so much. And so it's nothing like that. But I just remember thinking, I just wish I hadn't been born, because then this wouldn't be, you know? And I thought, well, that's not a good way to feel. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go and see if I can get some medication. So I went to the doctors, got some antidepressants, and I stayed on those for a year. And they definitely helped, because it kind of just numbed the edges slightly. So I could still process everything, because my worry was that if I took them, what happens when I come off? Because then I'm still, you know, I'm still going to be in the same situation. But actually it's really good, because it just numbs the edges, so I could process everything, deal with it. And then by the time I've come off the antidepressants, you know, I am not in the same place that I was before. So yeah, it was useful. But, you know, but then, you know, as we've spoken about before, that's where the training and the nutrition and the sleep really came into play.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, you know, you went into a kind of a deep depression, understandably, at that time with everything that had happened. So let's take through, like, what did you do, like, to, I mean, I know depression is rampant throughout the United States and the world. Like, what steps did, like, you personally take to work on kind of getting out of that depression? You mentioned that you took some natural steps as well.
Yeah. So once I got cleared from the physical therapist to go to the gym, that was just a game changer. I was so excited that day.
Yeah. And when was that?
That was May 2021.
Okay. So basically you had a
Yeah.
year and 9 months of not going to the gym.
Yeah.
Wow. So before we even get to the next step, so how did you deal with that as someone who is a lifelong athlete and workout person? How did you deal with 21 months of not going to the gym?
I think just whenever I felt sorry for myself, I would just remind myself how lucky I am that I was here. That was pretty much my pick me up every time. It's like, yeah, but you're here. Yeah, but you're here, you know. Be patient. Definitely taught me patience, for sure, because by nature I am quite impatient. So was, and it's definitely something I've worked on. But it was definitely hard. And I just remember the day where he said to me, oh, I think, you know, next week you're done. And I hadn't even thought about it by that point, because I'd got so into the rhythm of just going to see this physical therapist all the time. I had no idea that I was so close to the end. And then he was like, yeah, I think next week you'll be done. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this whole time, like, what were you like working toward? Like, obviously you're someone who's used to having like so many fitness goals. Like, did you have certain goals or certain checkpoints, or like, I know I need to get to this next or this next? Like, how did you still stay motivated to like be active or even do anything related to fitness
During that long wait?
During that whole 21-month time, like, how did you?
I think there were always things that I was going to be able to do. So like when I was able to sort of start jogging, and then so there was that to look forward to, and then getting into the water, because this is the other thing. I live right by the beach, and I couldn't surf. I couldn't get, not that I'm not an amazing surfer, but I enjoy surfing. Couldn't do that. Couldn't get into the water. So I could go to the beach, but you know, I'd get hot and then couldn't get in the water. So it's like, well, not much point there. So yeah, just little things like, that knowing that when I could, I'd be able to get into the water at this date and I could start running at this date. There was always little things kind of sprinkled through that time that I would look
Micro
forward
goals
to.
that you had along the way. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and then once he sort of cleared me to go to the gym, it was game on. I was like, right, got myself a coach and off I went.
There you go. There you go.
So that helped for sure. And then because I was training, I wanted to support my training with good nutrition. So I started, I mean, I've always eaten well anyway, but I think certainly then because I was like, okay, I've got to build muscle in this leg. So I got like way more into it than I had ever been before. And then I actually got a sleep coach to
Okay.
help me with sleep.
So
And that
how many coaches did you have at this point, or people supporting you?
so I had just the two. So I had my online coach for my fitness.
Yeah.
Well, he did my fitness and my nutrition actually. And then I had the other guy for my sleep at this
Okay.
point.
And I know a lot of people are thinking right now, well, Kat, you're a personal trainer. Why do you need a coach? So, and I personally have a coach myself as well, but why did you decide to hire a coach at this point versus just go do it on your own?
Because I didn't want to have to program my own coaching. I didn't want to have to think about it. I also, I do, even as a coach myself, I need to be held accountable 100%. Like, we're not all motivated all the time. And as much as I love training and it's part of my life and I can't imagine ever not doing it, it's very easy to slip, oh, I'll just miss this session, or oh, I'll just do this just this once. There's the odd little thing and it soon adds up. So, and I was very focused. I knew I wanted to get stronger. I'm still now learning my limits with my knee, but yeah, it just helps to have someone else kind of casting an eye over your progress really, and helping you course correct if things are not going not quite as well as you'd hoped.
Yeah.
And also as well, actually, on that, there were weeks where I really struggled and I was struggling mentally, and my coach was actually really good. And just to have someone else to talk to about it that isn't in my life immediately, but knows of my situation and can kind of give an objective view on things was really helpful.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And I'm sure just with everything that had gone on, you just benefited from having someone else. So let's talk about so in May of 2021, that was when you hired the coach then, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you hire the sleep coach?
That would have been, so hang on, let's do this. That would have been sooner. That was February.
February. Okay. So February 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, 2021. So just before.
Okay. So right before that. Okay. So what, some people might be wondering, so why did you hire a sleep coach?
I'm very curious by nature, I think. And I'd heard about him and I thought, well, I didn't feel like my sleep was awful, but it wasn't amazing. Like I was sleeping a lot, but still felt tired. And I couldn't really work out why. I was like, why am I tired if I'm sleeping so much? And so I hired him, and he just kind of it's honestly, you just have to tweak a few little things and it completely changes everything. It's quite amazing. But very soon I was kind of sleeping much better. Like the quality of my sleep was so much better. I was waking up earlier, but feeling way more energetic, thinking clearer, just everything. It was really, really good. And I think, well, that is actually it was that kind of tied in with coming off the antidepressants, because what I realized was I was forgetting to take them sometimes. And I thought, okay, so maybe I'm not as reliant on these as I thought. So then we kind of put the dose down a little bit, and then eventually I started taking them every other day instead, and came off.
Yeah.
And then that tied in with training more. So do you see what I mean? Like it all kind of
Right. So how do you feel like, just what were kind of the steps then to get back to a natural way to treat your depression? Because I think a lot of people are on medications for many years and do have maybe the desire to get off. So how did you then actively make the decision to get off them? And how have you noticed that like training, nutrition, sleep, like health stuff, how has that like helped you deal with the depression?
I think the decision to come off them, I think even when I went on them, I knew that it was not something that I necessarily had wanted to do, but it felt like a necessity. So in my mind, it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. And it definitely helped me. But I guess I'm kind of, I am quite holistic. And I personally believe that, if we look after our mind and our body, then, maybe we don't need these things. So, at the point where I went on the antidepressants, I couldn't move my body. So of course I needed something else to help me to process things and to feel better. But yeah, so I think as well, I guess I'm just quite strong-minded. If I decide like I'm doing this, then it's happening, So yeah, there was that. And I've got the most amazing friends and support network, family, everything. I'm really, really, really well surrounded, like incredible. Like cannot fault my friends for how amazing they've been, really. So that definitely helped. But I just believe, moving your body and nourishing your body. There's the gut brain axis, which I fully believe in. Like, you've got to have a healthy gut to have a healthy mind. And just, moving your body, because moving your body is getting all the energy around, it's moving energy around your body, right? If you're just sat still, it's just stagnant. So no wonder you're having like maybe these bad thoughts and things, but you've got to move your body to kind of shift these things around, is my personal belief. Maybe that's a bit woo-woo, but
Right. No, hey, I resonate with that as well. Motion creates positive emotion, can definitely help with mindset and everything else. So let's flash back here a second. So May of 2021, you're like cleared to go to the gym. I'm sure you're ecstatic, happy. You're like, hey, I can train again. You hire your coach. Okay, so what happens with your training from here? Like, how do you progress from here? What are you working toward?
So then I decided I wanted to do a photo shoot. I think because a friend of mine was doing one, and I was like, that's actually a really good idea to kind of, I guess I felt like it was a bit of like a rebirth in a way. That sounds really weird, you know what I mean? Like, okay, second chance, let's go, and I kind of just wanted to mark that. So, but at the same time, it wasn't, I didn't feel loads of pressure around it. I wasn't like, I need to look a certain way for this photo shoot. So I had it booked, but I wasn't, desperately trying to diet down and be in a certain condition. But obviously I've also got an ego because I'm human and I wanted to look nice. So it was like, I didn't have that huge pressure, but I was kind of looking after myself. I was training well, eating well. But, like if there was a Friday night with friends, I wasn't going to be like, no, I can't because I have a photo shoot in 4 weeks kind of thing. I was just kind of trying to do it with a bit of balance.
Sure.
So yeah, training wise, I started off 3 times a week. And then I guess after about 4 months, I went up to 4 times a week. I was just trying to be kind of careful and see what I could do. Still now there's things I just really screw myself over in the gym because I ego lift sometimes. So I'm like, no, I can do that. And I'll force myself. And I think, and it's more because I know what I could do before the accident. And I really struggle to accept that maybe I can't lift as heavy anymore. So every now and then I'm like, yeah, I can. And then I'm like, oh, no, I can't.
Right. Oh, I'm sure. And what are maybe like, a couple of things that you've had to like shift because of the accident, or just like your body's different? Like obviously like lifting heavy. Is there been anything else like mentally that's been challenging even to this day, like with training or your fitness, that is different from that used to be pre-accident?
I think recently, just in terms of like what I've noticed. So for example, last week I had a bit of a difficult week. I was really emotional. I was feeling a bit down. I have no idea why. Maybe because I've got the jaw surgery coming up. So obviously because my jaw's still not fixed properly. So I think with that kind of looming over me, so I'm someone that sometimes doesn't really recognize certain emotions, like that I'm feeling something until it's too late. So I think that's kind of been bubbling under the surface. So I've had a difficult week, 10 days or so. And what I notice is I'm finding it harder to get myself to the gym because I wake up in the morning and I just don't feel great. So it's quite hard to go. And then because, because I'm not feeling as motivated in that way, then I might be like, oh, where I've been tracking really accurately up until now, I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll just have this or blah. And so my nutrition's has, slowly started to go, not awry by any means, but just I wasn't as on it as I would be. And I sat there even today and I just thought, isn't it funny how you don't feel good, so then you don't go maybe train as much, or you don't eat as well, you basically don't look after yourself as well, but because you're not looking after yourself as well, you're not feeling as good, and it's just, you just get into this really bad cycle. So you really have just got to, like, I don't know, I just give myself a kick up the arse, basically have a word with myself and like, okay, come on, like, because I know it's going to make me feel better. Even just drinking enough water, it's little things that just go that you don't realize when you're not feeling great. Those little habits that we think are really ingrained actually might not be as ingrained as you thought.
Right. No doubt. I'm sure it's obviously impacted you in different ways, and we all have our good weeks here or there, and some weeks that aren't as good. But so let's kind of bring it back then to the photo shoot. So when did you do the photo shoot? When was that?
I think that was September 2021.
Okay.
Yes, it was about 4 months after I'd started back with coaching.
Okay. So September of 2021. So at this point, you have done your photo shoot. Like, you're looking very fit. I've seen the photo shoot photos myself. Definitely kind of incredible that just 2 years earlier, where you were. I mean, did you kind of comprehend at that point, like when you saw like those photos of yourself and knowing like where you had been like 2 years earlier, like how did that feel? Like, did it feel like you had really accomplished something? Did you not feel as much? Like, what did you feel like after those photo shoot photos had been done and you saw the results?
There's one in particular photo where I'm laughing. I've got my head back. I can't remember. I'm sort of laughing like that. And when I see that, I'm like, oh, what an amazing, it's an amazing feeling to see that picture, knowing that 2 years prior, how horrific and painful my life was, like mentally and physically. Like, it was just, and I tell you, I mean, I struggled sometimes, after the accident, I had a lot of survivor guilt. I was like, why am I here and Mimi's not? And did I see the car? Could I have pulled her out of the way? And now I can reason with myself. Well, no, if I'd seen the car, of course I would have pulled her out of the way. She's my best friend. But at the time, there's so much that's in that. And then I would feel guilty for enjoying myself, and when I bought this house, when we moved in, it was just like, oh God, I'd be so excited. And then I'd have this sadness, like, Mimi doesn't get to do this. And so there was a little bit of that when I looked at the photo, almost like, oh, okay. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, it's just like, wow, how amazing and how lucky am I that I am able to now feel so strong. And I think this is something that was not, I know this is the thing that any woman I speak to, I just want to try and get into their head with this, like, please be thankful for what your body can do, because so many women get so caught up on, what does the scale say? And, a million different things. How many pounds they've lost, how many inches their waist is measuring, and all this kind of thing. And it's like, but do you feel strong? Because rather than trying to hammer out loads of cardio to try and lose weight, instead of doing that, why don't you try and lift some weights? Because it's going to make you feel mentally stronger, physically stronger. And on the flip side, it's going to change your body composition, and you're actually going to get what you're chasing on the treadmill.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I'm sure a lot of emotions and kind of the culmination of the work that had happened and the recovery that had happened those last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you resume? I mean, obviously, personal trainer and nutritionist, like when did you resume actually like coaching or training people after the accident?
So that would have been, right, so it was 1921. The summer of 2021. Sorry.
All right. So summer of 2021. So what did you begin? So obviously you'd been a mobile at home personal trainer, you'd been done boot camps. What did you become a nutritionist? So what did your coaching look like at this point?
So then I decided to do it online, mainly because I feel that as a mobile personal trainer, there's fitness is one aspect of it, but there's so much more that comes into, health, body composition, self-confidence, all that kind of thing. In a 45 minutes to an hour personal training session, you can't do it all. So yeah, I went online because then obviously we can encompass the whole lot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned? You touched on it a little bit already of the women who you coach, but for anyone like listening, this could be a woman, could be a man as well. Like, what are some of the maybe one or two lessons that you've learned from this whole experience, the last couple of years of the accident, the recovery, and the mindset and overcoming obstacles that you like to carry over to your coaching with clients?
It one of them would, well, okay. The first one I always say is like, you're so much stronger than you think. Everyone is stronger than they think they are. We all seem to think that we can only lift this much. I was in the gym with someone the other day, and she said, oh, and she wanted to do a deadlift, but just with the bar. So she did it. And I was like, okay, so now I put 10 kilos on each side. And she did that. She said, oh, I can't go heavy. I was like, you definitely can, but sometimes you just need someone there to tell you. So you're stronger than you think, but physically and mentally. And I would say as well that the limits that you have are the limits you put on yourself. So if you tell yourself that you can't do something, or you're not able to do XYZ, or my body won't lose weight, or whatever story you tell yourself, that is what's going to happen. So if you say I'm not going to lose weight, then you're probably not going to lose weight, because you're going to end up snacking and thinking you're self-sabotaging basically. If you tell yourself, no, I absolutely am, I can do this, of course I can, you're going to be more dedicated to it because you're telling yourself you can, and then your behaviors change for that reason.
For sure. And actually expanding on that, how do you help women overcome their mental blocks like that? Like, oh, I'm not worthy, or I can't do this, or any of those things. Like, what are kind of one or two steps you take with women who are struggling with the mental aspect?
Reminding them to, well, not reminding them, but just asking them to listen to the way they're talking to themselves. Because, as I said just now, it is literally like whatever story you tell yourself is what's going to happen, pretty much. So just paying attention to the stories they're telling themselves. And something else, I think we spoke about this before, did we? With like just counting your wins at the end of the day and just having a look at what's gone well, because we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of them are negative. So if we can concentrate on the good things, in the evening, I always just think, okay, what's gone well? I always think of at least 3 things that have gone well. And then what happens is, as time goes on, things will happen through the day, and you'll think, oh, that's a win for later. And, so you're sort of training your brain to look for the positive things. So even just little tiny things like that, I don't think we can really, there's no massive breakthrough that happens with mindset. It's just little things bit by bit along the way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what are your goals for the future with your fitness?
Well, I'm going to do another photo shoot this year. So the coach that I have, she's got 4 shoots on this year. She's got one in April, but I can't go because my parents are visiting. So, but I think there's one in June and there's one in July. The July one I think is a gym shoot. So I'd quite like to do a gym shoot, because the other one I did was kind of like more lifestyle. So I'd quite like to do a gym shoot. And then I don't know. So she coaches people for shows like WBFF and the Miami Pro and things like that. So when I first started with her, she was like, "Will you do a show?" I said no. And she was like, "Can you just say maybe, just please?" And I was like, "Okay, maybe." And of course, she's just got in my head. So now I'm like, "Oh, shall I next year?" We'll see. I don't know. A lot can change in a year, can't it?
Yeah.
But I'll have a new jaw and new teeth. So
There you go.
yeah.
Oh, love it. And yeah, obviously some big goals this year, and fun goals. And all right, so we're kind of wrapping up now. We just have another minute or so left, and I just have 2 more questions for you. So the first question is, some people may be listening to this and obviously want to find a way to connect with you or learn more about you. So what's the best way for people to find you or get in touch with you?
Best way would be on Instagram, and it's Kat, so KAT dot 4M for muscle. There's a good one. Fit. So cat.formfit with a number 4.
Love it. We'll link it in the show notes here too.
Okay.
And then the last question I like to finish with is, you know, you've obviously gained a lot of perspective here these last couple of years, but let's say, it's all said and done. How do you want to be remembered when people think Kat Pryor?
That is a very good question. I would like to be remembered as someone who helped hundreds, if not thousands, of women feel as strong and capable as they deserve to feel.
All right, I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing your journey here, Kat. I know everyone is going to benefit from listening to this. And thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.